Attention cryptocurrency holders, traders, and investors worldwide. We have an amazing explosion coming to the crypto markets in the months of October and November. When you look at the historical data, it's screaming at you. These months are going to be explosive, and I need you to be ready. How big of an explosion will this be? Let's dig into the numbers. Welcome. I'm Steve. Here we deliver honest, sponsorship-free TA with genuine value. Subscribe for a no BS approach that actually helps you. Subscribe. So here we are. What we've got on our hands are all of the months across the top of your screen, starting with January and ending in December. Now, on the side of your screen, you have the years of 2013 all the way to present day 2025. And filled in with each month and in each year, we have the performance of Bitcoin on a percentage return basis. Green bars are representing positive months, when during that month where we started the month and ended the month, we actually increased in value. And red blocks, where we started the month and ended the month, we actually went down in value. And in a percentage basis, we have it represented in number form of a percentage that Bitcoin either increased during that month in green or decreased in red. Now, when you look at it, it makes it really, really clear what months you should be buying Bitcoin and what months you should be selling Bitcoin. This chart makes it abundantly clear. Now, at the bottom, for our convenience, we have the average, where the average of all of the months that we have collected is represented here. Now, that's where it's going to come into play. We're going to dig into these months and all of the data that's right in front of us, and then it's going to become abundantly clear what's about to happen in the months of October, in the months of November. Let's start with January. With January, you can see we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red months out of the years represented here, with an average return of just a measly 3.8%. Now, this is nothing to jump at, but I do want to point out that this is one of the worst performing months of the year when it comes to Bitcoin. And we follow that up with the month of February, which is a very, very strong month historically. And you can see just 1, 2, 3 red years represented in the month of February. Whereas in January, we had double. We had 6 years of those red numbers. And you can see the average return for February for Bitcoin is 13%, blowing January out of the water. And we followed that up with March, which had more red years. However, the average return is still very, very strong. In other words, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red years, more than January, but the average return outweighed because we had some years, for example, 2013 really saved Bitcoin in the month of March, gaining 172%, which is wild for a month. But at any rate, we followed up with April. April had less red. We're talking about 5 years of red. So not as green as February, but less red than January. And a very strong return, 13% average return over all of the years represented here. So pretty strong February, pretty strong March, pretty strong April. We follow it up in May. We decrease a little bit. We do have 6 red years represented here, and the average return dropped from 13% to 8%. No hype, just facts. Subscribe and relax. Then we follow that up in June. We do have a bit of red and a bit of green, and pretty much a break even in terms of our average, making it the worst month of the year so far. We started out the month with January being a pretty bad performer. Well, June is even worse, right? At pretty much a break even. Then it brings us to July. We do turn around a little bit in July. We only have 4 red years represented here. So one of the least amount of reds so far outside of February. And we bring that return back up to 7%. And that brings us into August. August historically is not a good month, not a fair month to Bitcoin. Lots of red happening in August. The most so far, you look at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 red years. August has not been kind to Bitcoin with just a 1% return. Not as bad as June, but more red. It's consistently bad in August. In other words, it's probably a good time to buy in the months of June and the months of August, historically. Brings us to September. September is one of the worst performing months in Bitcoin for the whole year, right? It's even worse than June, and it's even worse than August. So you got 2 months a year, every year, that are great for buying, and that's August and September, historically. September actually has a negative return of 3.7%. But that's because the months of August and September, where you buy, you should buy August and September. The months of October and November just steal the show. And they steal the show for the whole year. We follow 2 bad months up with 2 phenomenal months, the best months of the year. For example, in October, we only have 2 red years, the least amount out of any month on this chart. In other words, October is a good month to bet on crypto. October is a good month to bet on Bitcoin. October is a good month to bet on altcoins. October is a month that we can point to as the strongest chance for a phenomenal month. Out of any month in the year, October is the year. And when you look at it, just 2 red months, it brings us to an average return of almost 22%, which leads us into November. Now, November had 4 red years, but November gets so explosive that when it's green, it's ridiculously green. In fact, the average return of November since 2013 is 46%. By far, the largest of the year. Almost double that of second place. So when you think about it, August and September are the times to add to your positions. In October and November are the times to pump and really think about taking profits. October and November are going to be amazing, and I can't wait. Trade like a tourist or go with the pros. The FFA is where the real ones go. Link in description.